Joining me now, Mercedes Schlapp. She is Senior Advisor Trump-Pence 2020. We're down 50 days to go. This election, mobilization, mobilization, mobilization. It's all about getting out to vote, getting your friends out to vote, getting them to the polls. If you can, vote on Election Day. Polls are tightening. The Trump campaign now pulling ahead in some of these key battleground states. Everything working in their favor. And Mercedes is here now to add some enlightenment to this. Mercedes, great to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Let's get first to the fake article in the Atlantic magazine a week ago. Obviously, this is a coordinated hit job. What's interesting is 25 people that were there in France have denied the president ever said this. My theory is the reason why none of these unnamed sources, Mercedes, can come forward is because if anybody did come forward, nobody was by themselves alone with the president during that trip. So anybody that comes forward, there's likely to be two, three, four, five other people that were with the president with the unnamed source who can then say, well, he never said that at the time the person said he said it. That's why they're never going to come forward. It's not because of retaliation or retribution. It's because they made the story up. And if they say who they were, 3 or 4 people say, I was there with him the whole time. That never happened.
Yeah, I think here's the deal. I think you have these quote-unquote unnamed sources, which, of course, they seem to dominate many of the of these journalists and basically trying to control what narrative they want to be pushing out. And it's interesting. I find it very cyclical. It starts with this story with unnamed sources. It then becomes a DNC ad or a Biden ad, and then Joe Biden gives a speech about it, trying to destroy the president's record and his commitment to veterans and the military, all based on lies. And so, the Atlantic article, and I knew a lot of people who were on that trip, and they've all come out. Over 21 people came out on the record saying that never, ever happened. But it's too late. By that time, the liberal media hangs on to it, and they literally do 24/7 coverage on it. It goes viral on social media, and then it becomes part of Joe Biden's repertoire while he's out there campaigning, even though he campaigns out, in the public maybe once a week or twice a week or something like that. But, so I think, John, look, we're used to this deceptive game. We're going to see a lot more of this coming our way from now through Election Day. And it's all about what can they do to try to destabilize the president's, really strong support from his base and from his supporters. So the people of the military, the veterans, who they all know that the president's record has been very clear about his commitment to a strong military and to helping our veterans.
The president's record with veterans and the military and what he said has been stellar from the beginning. So this doesn't fit into anything that he would ever say or do. Like you said, 21 people have denied this, all the people that were there. But this is a hit job. And look, the Biden campaign they don't have a program for anything. Their whole campaign is every day do a Zoom from Wilmington, take some media hit job on Trump and amplify it. That's it. That's their entire campaign so far.
Their entire campaign has been all anti-Trump. I mean, it started with, their doom and gloom convention where they did not present a clear vision of America. And in fact, their whole goal was just to say how bad Donald Trump is. And look, you might personally not like the president, but that does not in any way help understand what the radicals are really trying to do. And really what we know, and it was funny, it was my 13-year-old daughter who told me this morning, she goes, Mom, Joe Biden is a puppet of the left. And that is the perfect description. He himself needs to keep that base in a good place, the far left base. And so it's why he has signed on to Bernie Sanders' unity plan. And the unity plan is, the list of all the crazy ideas of the left, whether it be, let's just add a tremendous amount of tax burden on American families. This is about, getting to a point that we're defunding the police and obviously giving free health care to illegals. I mean, the list goes on. And I think for, the American people, like, they have to see through this. It's like his fracking idea, where he goes from saying, yeah, we're going to ban fracking when it's convenient to make sure his Democrat base is happy, but then all of a sudden he's like, no, we're not going to ban fracking. Well, what is it, Joe? Are you going to ban or not ban? Like, you can't, he keeps changing his mind when it comes to these issues, because of the fact that he's very nervous that he's not going to, appease the far left. And I just think that the American people need to realize that this is no longer a moderate party. This is a party with radical ideas that will fundamentally change America. And when you have Bernie Sanders saying that, our radical ideas have become mainstream, that's a red flag for Americans to know that we need to stop them, and we can't let Joe Biden become president.
John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with Mercedes Schlapp. Mercedes is Senior Advisor, Trump-Pence 2020. We're getting down the wire, 50 days. Let's get to one item here, Mercedes, in the news. I just want to get your reaction to the assassination attempt of 2 innocent officers in L.A. yesterday. Shot, both of them now fighting for their lives. They were just sitting in a patrol car. It was an ambush. The alleged assailant appears to be, from what cops said, a black male. There's a $100,000 reward out. But disturbing to a lot of people today in America, those that have seen this on social media, is the people in L.A. cheering when these cops were shot, dancing, sending out videos, then blocking the entrance into the hospital, into the emergency room. Cops had to clear them out, then chanting, "Hope you die." Mercedes, you've got a family. I mean, you got a bunch of daughters. How do you even explain it to them?
I think that it's so hard to really understand how those people who were the quote-unquote protesters can try to block the entrance of an emergency room, wishing the death of these police officers. It's just pure evil, and that's how I explain it to them. It's just pure evil, cruel people who don't have any respect for our law enforcement and for life in general. And I think that this has become a byproduct of what has been allowed on the streets, whether it be in Portland, whether it be in Seattle, the rising crime in Chicago and New York. And it's the Democrat Party's fault and Joe Biden's fault, because he is the leader of that party, for demonizing our law enforcement. And the mere fact is, you have seen this mayhem on the streets, the chaos on the streets, which have resulted in these innocent lives being shattered forever. And I think it just hits home. I mean, I have one of my dear friends is actually, the head of, city of Doral down in Florida. She's a cop. I mean, I went to high school with her. And, these are people who have families. These are people who, are there to keep our community safe. And because they've made the police, because the Democrats and Joe Biden have all made the police the bad guys, all of them, instead of saying, there are a couple bad apples in here, but the reality is that all these guys are there for the most part, to make sure that we are safe. And, they're the ones that respond to the calls of 9/11 when there's a domestic violence case or a child being abused. I mean, that's very problematic. And I just find it to be horrifying that we're having to see these incidents happen in these cities.
It's sickening. Evil is what it is, but I never thought I would see things like this in my lifetime in this country. Just the hatred that is going on, and I'm not even going to get into why this has happened or any of the social aspects of it, but it's certainly sick and certainly something that we don't want. And I mean, from a policy standpoint, I don't know why you would be a police officer now. Cops are getting defunded in our home state. You and I live in Virginia. The House passed a legislation in the House of Delegates the other day to strip police officers of qualified immunity. Luckily, it got stalled in the Senate. It's under review. But they've also put in a bill to cut police funding 25%. I mean, it's take away the weapons they have to protect themselves. It's unbelievable, this war on police that we're having. How is this gonna manifest itself in 50 days on November 3rd? Do you think?
I think one of the areas in particular that I'd be curious. I've been really honing in on is on in suburbia America, basically, where I think for women, the communities, being safe neighborhoods is a priority, and it's definitely one of the things that when I'm traveling across the country, with the Women for Trump, you find out and you have these conversations, and they all feel the same way about public safety, keeping their community safe, keeping their children safe, and this idea that we're going to demoralize the police, defund the police, and the Democrats just, their posture and their attacks on law enforcement, I don't think it sits well with the American people, especially with suburban moms. And I think that they see what's happening in Portland. They see what's happening, even here in D.C. I don't know about you, John, but I have no desire to go into the city. It's depressing.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, graffiti everywhere. And it's like, and you just want to be like, this is not what our cities are about. New York City is another disastrous city. That's something that would always be a nice trip if you were able to go up there with your kids. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, it's not safe in New York City. They're going after the police. There's, obviously there's a lot of crime. The homelessness is out of control. And so I do feel that the president's law and order message will definitely resonate. And I think it shows that when you have Democratic leaders in place in these cities, that their policies are detrimental to their communities. Look, I think that it is important to address, the issues that the Black community is going through. And when, the fact that we want to deal with poverty in those communities, and how can we uplift Black America? How can we break the cycle of poverty, the cycle of ensuring that families can be together and raise their kids in a safe community. And I think that those are very important questions to talk about. But literally what you're seeing are paid rioters on the streets, destroying companies, destroying small businesses, looting, and causing this chaos, which is very destructive to any of our cities across the country.
Well, it's sickening. And, you mentioned Washington, D.C., where both of us spent a lot of time. I have a place there. I have a studio there. The last time I went there was when the president made his acceptance speech at the White House. I live by the Capitol, so, it should be about 20 minutes, right? Took me 4 hours to get home. I took my life in my hands trying to get out of there that night, as everybody is well aware. You walk down the streets of D.C., which was a beautiful city. All the stores are boarded up. You can still smell some of the rubber that burned, and you can still smell some of the cinders. Everything is shut down. It's just sad. It's sad.
It's sad.
What has happened to our city? Yeah,
I agree with you. I don't. My daughter has a lot of friends in Maryland, and so that they like driving over there. And I tell them all the time. I'm like, do not go into the city, because you are concerned about the crime. You are concerned about the fact that the mayor has failed drastically in dealing with this issue and really creating peace. Look, I'm for peaceful protest. I don't have a problem with this. The problem is what you're seeing. It's a lot of these paid rioters that come into these cities, and they've already said it, even the day after the election, that they're planning ways that they're going to come and start, quote unquote, protesting / rioting again. And I just think that, when the president went to Kenosha and said, look, and told the governor and the mayor, we're sending federal assistance and deploying the National Guard, that helped control the situation there. But, Portland continues to be a disaster because they refuse, those Democrat liberal governor and mayor refuse help from the president. And so how are they going to get their cities under control? People shouldn't have to live like that. And I just think it's horrible. It's discouraging.
Mercedes, let's get to the new round of polling that's come out. A couple of shock polls. Number one, the Fox poll showing us getting 41% of the Hispanic vote. Another poll showing us at the Zogby poll at 15% of the black vote. We've taken the lead in Florida, North Carolina. All the polls now that are coming out seem to be in Trump's favor. Is there a trend here?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've really seen, especially in our internal polls, momentum on the side of the president. We see in many of these battleground states where the president's either leading or tied. And, we see that Joe Biden's on defense. He's having to spend not only money, but time in places that are really more Democrat strongholds like Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire. And the president's going, if you've noticed, I mean, he's traveling, being very aggressive, going into these states with the hopes of flipping these states towards on our side. And I just think for Joe Biden, he's having to spend money on ads, even with black voters. Again, some that people would say the black voters are a shoo-in for the Democrats. And what we've done is that we're just playing in their space, and we're being very successful. And I'm really proud of the work that I know our team has done in reaching out to the Hispanic community, to the black community. I've been in Republican politics for a long time. You have too, John, and really it's understanding that Republicans have never done a really good job at reaching out to the Latino voters and the black voters. Right. And for this campaign, it became a very important priority for us, and I think we're starting to see the benefits, because I think that the Latino community, for one, they don't like these socialist types of policies. They don't like it makes them very uncomfortable. They fear the socialist tactics of the left and of Joe Biden, and that how he's been so chummy with them. And at the same time, I think that they're looking at, well, who's going to really create opportunity and ensure that we have economic prosperity? And that's what Donald Trump has been able to accomplish, and they know he's going to do it again.
Mercedes, tell us about our Election Day ground game.
Well, it's very impressive. We've already made over 100 million voter contacts. That's about 3 times more than we ever made in 2016. Secondly, we've got close to 2 million volunteers, which is also record-breaking, basically beating our goals, especially back in 2016. So we have a true ground game. It's very sophisticated. We're ready when it comes to ensuring that, the day of the election, we have the right people deployed to the right targeted states and precincts to get through this voting process, obviously, because that could get tricky as well. And, I just think that we've spent a lot of time, at least in the first couple of last 2 years, where we have really invested in these states, and they're very active. And I tell you, I get to travel across the country, and I'm in all these different field offices. A couple common threads I find, it's a lot of women who are running these field offices. They're very active, and it's amazing to watch how organic it is as well. The enthusiasm is real. It is something that, Joe Biden could only wish to have right on his side, and we really have that. And it's, even in the Nevada rally, where when the president went, they were able to calculate that 20% of those individuals who went to the rally hadn't even voted in 2016. So we're identifying even new voters there.
That's amazing. Now, I just want to be sure I heard you correctly. So nationwide, Trump-Pence 2020 and their team, you've made 100 million voter contacts.
That's right.
Many of those by phone, but a lot of them person to person,
knocking on doors. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Knocking on doors safely. And did I hear you correctly that you've got 2 million trained volunteers?
That is correct.
Think about this, people. 2 million trained volunteers. This is just somebody that pops in one day and puts a sign up. These are people that went through a training program to be Trump-Pence volunteers. 2 million trained volunteers, and we still got 50 days. So that number could go up to 3 million. I mean, this is a massive ground game, and the fake news media is ignoring it like it doesn't matter. Now, just end this very quickly. We've heard a lot this past weekend that the Trump campaign is going to be outspent in the final 50 days, that we don't have enough money to compete, even though we've raised over $1 billion. What can you tell us about that, Mercedes?
Look, I think we're in a very strong position. The one thing about Bill Stepien, and he's ran several statewide campaigns, and obviously was very involved in 2016 as well, is that he's very resourceful. He knows where we need to spend the money. which is critical. And he, like he said, he wants to spend it down to zero. So that's our goal. This is, we have been investing for 2 years. So we're in a much stronger position than the Biden campaign, which has 50 days to try to get himself organized on a ground game. And I just think we will, I think we are in a very good position from a financial standpoint to get us through in the areas that we need to invest in, including ads, which we're going up this week in Arizona and Pennsylvania, and as well as ensuring that we continue to fund our ground game.
Okay, Mercedes, thank you for being with us. Fabulous update. We're with Mercedes Schlapp, Senior Advisor, Trump-Pence 2020, former Communications Director, White House. Mercedes, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.